Okay guys, welcome back to my channel. This is Killer Headshot. Just want to say thank you first of all before I get into the video for all my subscribers that have stuck with me along the way. So my subscribers don't drop. If they do, it's just by one or two once in a blue moon. So I just want to say a massive thank you for your support. And I do appreciate it, and this is one of the reasons why I continue on with the channel, is the support that you guys are giving me. So today we're going to be talking about PlayStation 5, what I know so far, and what I feel to be credible information that will materialize later on down the line. So the first thing that I'm quite adamant about is the release date of the machine. So the release date is rumored to be November next year, 2020. I believe it will be late November next year, 2020. So this is a popular release date for, well, release month of the year for Sony. So, and it makes logical sense sales wise. So yeah, I'm pretty confident that that will be the day, or the month shall I say, where we're going to be able to buy the console. Sony needs to get all the people adopting this platform in time for Christmas, because that's one of the biggest selling periods of each year. So you know, simple as that. Okay, next thing will be the event. So Sony are going to release the console next year in November, late November, and they're going to have an event next year, early next year, in February 21st next year. So at this event, it's going to be similar to the event that we had for the PlayStation 4, and it's going to be a showcase of what the machine is going to be and an official sort of unveiling. I don't think they're going to show the actual physical console at the event, although there is a chance that they will, but I don't think they will. I think they will take the same strategy as what they took the last time, and is to, you know, just have sort of loads of sort of graphics on the screen and you know, gameplay examples, and talk about the specs of the machine on a more granular level. And that's what I think they're going to do. And they're going to have Mark Cerny talking about what's to come with the new machine, and in general, you know, what the next generation is going to hold for us, and you know, some features. They're going to, Mark Cerny is going to talk about new features, possibly a new operating system. But yeah, they're going to talk about these sort of things, and then they're going to potentially hold another event later on in the year to actually show us what the console is going to look like, so they can milk it out, you know, because this is the best way to do it. So they're not going to show us all their cards straight away. Alright, moving on to the specs of the machine. So this is something that's been a rumour for a little while, but it's just been added to ever so slightly. So the specs of the machine. So what we're going to have a CPU which is based on the Ryzen 3rd generation 7nm process. It's going to be an 8-core CPU with 16 threads. It's going to be running at 3.2 gigahertz. It's going to be 1,000,000 times more powerful than what we had on the PlayStation 4 Pro and the PlayStation 4. It's going to be able to enable far higher frame rates than what we had on the previous generation, or shall I say this generation, which is the PlayStation 4. So that's the CPU out the way. Not much to say about that. I've told you it's going to be a beast in comparison to the older architecture which is currently on the PlayStation 4 Pro, which is the bulldozer. So it's very high end. It's more powerful than what my current editing stroke gaming rig is. Okay, the RAM is going to be 24 gigs or around there. They're going to separate this, you know, they're going to dedicate 4 gigs for the main navigation of the system, the operating system, and then the remaining 20 gigs is going to be for textures, you know, and whatever else that the graphics card requires. So it's going to be running at GDR6. It's going to be GDR6 RAM. And then moving on to the GPU. The GPU is going to be a whole new architecture. It's going to be cutting edge. It's going to be the RDNA architecture. It's going to be 9.2 teraflops of power, but this is on a newer architecture, which is newer than what we've got at the moment. That's going to equate to 14 point something teraflops on the new on the current architecture, which is the GCN architecture. So essentially, it's going to be like what we say, more than 2 times the power, the graphical power of the Xbox One X. It's going to be more than 2 times the graphical power of the, so I'll say around 2.5 times the power of the Xbox One X on a graphical level. It's going to be even more powerful than the Xbox One X overall, because the Xbox One X has got a potato CPU just like the PlayStation. So because the CPU is so much more powerful on this new generation, this next generation PS5, the overall computing power will be higher. But if we're just talking graphics card, it's going to be 2.5% faster than what we got, 2.5 times faster than what we've got at the moment. And yeah, that's pretty much the main specs. We've got one more thing, which is obviously the hard drive. They're working on a super fast hard drive, which is going to be a custom built SSD, which is going to be rumored to be 2 terabytes in storage, and it's going to be faster than what we currently have on PCs, faster than a really fast M.2 drive. So this is going to allow the games to run faster as well, because the new modern games, a lot of them run on an open world sort of sort of basis. So there's a lot of information that needs to be loaded at a fast speed, because essentially you're going to be going across the open world, and the game needs to load assets, and it needs a really fast hard drive to do that. So yeah, it's going to be reducing the loading times to next to nothing. I think their goal is to try and market this as no loading times, but there's always going to be something. There's always going to be something. But I feel that with this custom SSD, there's a chance that you won't notice it. A lot of people won't notice. It's only going to be those geeks that may say, oh well, at that point they was doing a quick load, but they can cover that up with the game. So essentially there's going to be next to no loading times with this new custom SSD that they're incorporating into the PlayStation 5. So looking at all these specs, this machine is the most balanced machine that we've had ever. The one before that was the PS3. It had a very strong CPU, but it wasn't a CPU that we could work with. I say we, but the developers could work with. It took them such a long time. It was a cell processor. But yeah, now we've got a machine that is the most balanced machine ever, the most powerful machine ever, because everything that is being put into it is being designed to be able to be worked with in the most efficient way, and to be able to squeeze the maximum amount of power that we could get to keep this thing at a relatively reasonable price point. And that leads me on to the price. The price is going to be around £500 UK. Yeah, that is the rumor as well. So yeah, I've covered that part. Also, the machine is going to be capable of up to 8K. I don't think developers are going to take that on board unless it's a extremely non-demanding game. So I think that the more common resolution what this machine is capable of would be 4K 60, and in some rare occurrences, we may get up to 4K 120 FPS, but that is the capability of the machine. It's capable of up to 8K. Will they utilize that 8K? I don't think they're going to use 8K at all, to be honest. Maybe on a couple basic games, but there's no point. Nobody has 8K televisions really. There's a couple sets that are out there at the moment. It's only for the rich. It's not a mainstream format. I think they're going to focus 4K 60, true 4K 60, true 4K 60. And this leads me on to the next part, and that's going to be ray tracing. So this is something that has been spoken about as well. All these things I'm talking to you have been spoken about. So with the ray tracing, the machine at hardware level is capable of ray tracing. So if there's a game that they wish to use with the ray tracing capability, then I believe it won't be running at 4K 60. I believe any game that's going to be ray tracing is going to be more realistically running around 1440p or checkerboard 4K 30, because of how demanding ray tracing is. If you know, you know. If you don't, you don't. So I'll explain it now. Essentially, ray tracing, I'll let you know what ray tracing is first so you can get an idea. So I'm going to explain it in a quite straightforward manner. So ray tracing is basically naturally projected light, and in a game. So essentially it simulates what light would do in the real world in a game. And it's not much more to say, and I'll say that this was going to be implemented on metals in the game, on puddles on the ground in the game. So you're going to see real-time reflections from the puddles in the ground in the game, and real-time lighting from the puddles in the ground in the game. You can see real-time reflections from metals, surfaces and things like that, and mirrors, and everything's going to be real-time. The way the light comes down and bounces off all the assets, the game assets, that's ray tracing. And it's incredibly taxing on hardware, even on high-end PC hardware. They've had this tested on RTX 2080 Ti, and it barely scrapes 60 FPS at 4K. It just about manages it. So ray tracing is going to be very demanding. So yeah, that's that. But it's amazing, it looks great, and it's definitely going to be implemented on quite a few of the storytelling games with the PlayStation 5. Also, Sony have decided to focus more heavily on these big storytelling games and less on the indie games. Doesn't mean that we don't and won't have indie games, but it's going to be more focus on the storytelling campaign games. More time will be taken and given to the developers to be able to develop more amazing PlayStation exclusives. Another thing that they're going to focus on with the next generation is game streaming. I'm not going to talk about that much because I think we're here for the actual machine, the whole PlayStation 5, but game streaming will be also a focus for next generation, as it's already been rumored that Sony are going to be working with Microsoft to be able to compete with Google Stadia, and they're going to be sharing their service. Microsoft is going to share the servers with Sony, and Sony's going to share their expertise with Microsoft, and they're going to basically team up to make sure that their streaming service moving forward on the next generation is going to be crushing Google Stadia, because Google Stadia is something that Microsoft and Sony don't want to be able to come into this market and grab some market share. So that's pretty much everything that I know so far. Okay guys, that's the end of the video. Just want to say thank you again to my subscribers for all your support over the last few years. And if you are new to the channel and you've made it this far to the end of the video, please like and subscribe. Okay, peace.